and some of the rationale behind the decisions that were made. So as we plan for the budget, there was a group of budget administrators team that came together, and these are some of the items that we had to consider as we put the budget together. One of them being the alignment of staff to student enrollment, evaluation of department needs, use of federal title funds to maintain supplemental positions, preserve positions funded with federal funds at new minimum salaries, availability of state and federal funds, and then compliance with statutory and regulatory obligations. So as you all know, membership or student enrollment is what drives revenues for school districts. And so here's just a quick graph of what student enrollment has been doing over the last 10 years. You can see that there is a gradual decline in student enrollment. And so what this does is this drives our operational dollars, or what comes in the form of an SEG. So again, the state equalization guarantee provides the district's primary source of revenue, with it being about 95%. Again, the SEG is what drives, so we have a student attendance, and it's based on the average of the 80th and 120th. And then whatever units are generated in the SEG, you multiply times the unit value, and that's how we arrive at our SEG dollars. I'm going to bring up the 910B5, which is how the revenue is calculated, just to kind of show kind of how it works. So you have, here you can see that here's the average of the 80th and 120th. And here along the side, you can see that there's a calculation of units. So you have bilingual, elementary fine arts, PE, at-risk growth. And down here, you have the total number of units, and that is multiplied times the unit value to arrive at your SEG dollars. So the SEG value, which is the multiplier you saw, is set twice a year. It's set at, like right now in March, they'll set an initial unit value. And so what that is that's like a preliminary number that's used to calculate the SEG. Usually in January of 2025, we actually get the final unit value. So for the initial value, it's $6,442.55. This year, the final unit value was $6,241.67. That is an increase of about $200.88, which is 3.22% over last year's value. And then just to note that this year, the initial unit value and the final unit value did not change, so there was no change in unit value. So the SEG, as you saw in the previous slide, is $172.8 million. That is an increase of $18.5 million from this year's SEG. Now, when we were looking at the SEG and when we were reviewing some of the data that generates the units, we did notice a discrepancy with the ancillary FTE. So as you can see on the graph below, there is our ancillary FTE units on the 80th and 120th days have hovered around 60s, high 60s or mid 60s. And you can see for this year, for the projections of this year, it's way up there. It's 129.09%. We believe that that amount is incorrect, and we think that number we're thinking should be more around 65.5. So we don't believe that that amount is accurate, and we have reached out to New Mexico PED, and they're working on it. So with that said, here is what happens to the SEG just based on those differences. So as we said, if you budget the $72.8 million as compared to this year, it would be an overall increase about $18.5 million. With that adjustment to the ancillary FTE, that number for the SEG would come down to $162.6 million, which is only an increase of about 8.3. So the SEG difference due to those ancillary FTE units, we're thinking is being overestimated by $10.2 million. So what we want to do is we want to budget at this 62. Now, it is possible that PED might take a while to realize that there is a discrepancy in their numbers, and they may still make us budget the 172.8. But if that's the case, I'm recommending that we put that money on reserves, because it is possible that when they come back that they will have to take this money back. So when we look at the SEG, one of the things that we look at is the change in units. So you have increases and you have decreases. And so this is a quick summary of the units and kind of what's happened. So we had obviously a decrease in student enrollment. And you can see here that that's about $240,000 where there's a student enrollment. Now, this amount does seem a little small, but you have to consider, too, that those dollars are calculated based on the unit value. And so sometimes that unit value goes up, and although your enrollment goes down, because your unit value goes up, those numbers might not necessarily reflect, the decrease in membership. Then we have our SPED units. Here you have an increase in ancillary units. This is a number that I believe is overstated by $10.2 million. And then we have elementary, bilingual, PE, the cost multiplier. One of the other increases is this rural population. This is something that we did not get last year. So that really helped our SCG. And then a decrease in at-risk units, and so it's a total increase in SCG of 8.3. So that's what we're going to budget. Now, as part of the budget process, one of the first things we do is identify our revenues for the year. And when you budget, your revenues must equal your expenditures. So what we did this year is, again, we're going to start with $162.6 million. We're not going to budget the 172 because we believe that number is incorrect. And then we have estimated some of the other revenue sources, which would be your investment revenue, rental income, vendor refunds, and indirect cost. So we anticipate that will be an additional $550,000. So when you take those two, SEG and other resources, it's $163.1 million. We estimate a cash carryover of $53.6 million. So our total budgeted expenditures for the year will be $216,850,987.60. And then just a reminder that that when it comes to cash balance, there is a administrative code or a statute that says that cash balance carried over from the prior fiscal year in the operational fund subfund shall not be used for salaries and benefits. And so when you read this, what that is referring to is this amount here, this $53.6 million. So estimated expenditures, there we had the salary changes due to the three-tier system. These are teachers that move from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. And so that was an additional expense to the district of $704,882. Another expense that we haven't received the transportation allocation, but in the last couple of years, we haven't received enough to cover the entire cost of transporting students. So we budgeted $2 million because we do expect a shortfall. For instructional materials, there's an allocation within the SEG of $2.1 million. There's also an allocation within the SEG for structured literacy. We have budgeted $268,733, but the actual amount has not been released. So we budgeted what we budgeted last year, but I may have to tweak that once those numbers come out. So we are looking at the PED website daily to see when those allocations are released. The other thing is there was an increase of $7.6 million to our salary and wages. This includes a 3% increase. There's a $1 step increase for hourly staff within every 5 years. There was a restructuring of the SPED department and other FT department needs that were budgeted. Elementary clerical staff was budgeted from 190 days to 200 days. And then there was an adjustment to other administration per the Department of Labor new exception rule. So it was a combination of all these items that was at $7.6 million. There was no change to RHCA or disability insurance premiums. For medical premiums, there was a 15.53% increase, 5 for dental and 3 for vision. The at-risk NIMSIA premium insurance coverage was 31.87%, or that's approximately $1.5 million increase for this fiscal year. And so when it comes to how we are going to expend the budget, we categorize this into the different options. So this is your entire budget. So we saw the revenue side of it. Now we're looking at the expenditure. So for expenditures, we have salaries and benefits, which are $154.2 million, which is approximately 94.86% of our SEG. We have property and liability insurance, utilities, school allocations, and then the emergency cash reserve. The cash reserve per policy should be between 5 and 10%, and right now it is at 5.2%. So then the rest of the budget, and so you can see down here that it's the entire budget is $216,850,987.60. We have $20.6 million going into construction, and this is your Gadsden Middle School construction, Riverside, and then the sewage connection project. That's what makes up that $20 million. We have athletics, bilingual, structured literacy. Again, it was budgeted at $268,733. We're still pending an allocation from PED. Facilities and maintenance. There's $4 million in network infrastructure and $2 million for transportation. I do want to let you guys know that we did cut department budgets by 30%, and the expectation would be that once we receive our final numbers, whether it be that we have additional cash carryover or that we have an increase in the unit value, we would, the idea would be to make this budgets whole again. And so here is a quick, summary of what the last couple of years have looked like within our SEG and our salaries and benefits percentages as a percent of SEG and percent of budget. And so this year again, the percentage of budget would be 71.14%, and the percent of salaries and benefits going to SEG is 94.86%. Another item that we usually review is instructional versus administrative costs. So this is a comparison of 2024 to 2023, the budget as it was created this year versus the upcoming year. So you can see here that there's additional budget, but you can see here the percentage of, and so what you have here is the different functions. So you have direct instruction, student support, and instructional support. This is kind of these top three functions is the percentage dollars. So these are the dollars that go for those functions, which are usually related with direct student instruction, and that's approximately 66.5%, 66.52% of the budget. This is your FTEs allocated for that purpose. So that is 78.8% of the budget. And so you can see here, general administration, school administration, central services, the dollars allocated for that purpose, which is approximately 10.07% compared to 8.74% of the budgeted FTEs. That's just for your information. And then here's a salary increase history. I think I heard somebody ask what have been our increases in the last couple of years. So you can see here, now for this year, we did have the $1 step increases, but these are some of the requirements or things that have the district has done. And so it looks like for the last 6 years, there's always been an increase, which is nice because I remember there being years where we didn't get an increase at all. And then projected revenues from other funds. So you have transportation, which unfortunately, we still don't know what that allocation is going to be. Last year, our allocation was $6 million, instructional materials. This year, our allocation was about $50,000 less than it was this year. And then structured literacy is, again, to be determined. Projected revenues for other funds. So we have our federal grants, which have provided some tentative allocations. And so right now, we've received a total of 7 funds, and, with the largest one being Title I at $11.4 million. And that's all I have, so I'll open it up for any questions. I think I'd just like to say that this year has been a very challenging year for budget. I know that usually we have more information to provide, but this year has been difficult because we're still pending on a lot of information from New Mexico PED. So a lot of our allocations haven't been released, and currently as we speak, there's changes happening within PED, even there are our chart of accounts. And so it's work in progress. So you can expect that there will be some modifications from the budget that I presented today to the budget we actually bring back to you for review and approval.
Claudia, I think the one thing I'd want the board to understand is that as PED makes decisions, that impacts the way we've planned our budget. That could be good or bad, and those are the unknowns. And we're just really behind just because information has never been released this late. And even last week, some of our at-risk factors were being questioned that we need. In fact, we received a memo that we needed to check to make sure the numbers were accurate, which that one seemed fine. Mm-hmm. But we don't really trust, I don't understand how they're calculating the FTEs for ancillary services and SPED. And I don't want to go take some dollars only then to them come back and say, well, you owe us this.
Well, we have our preliminary budget meeting on the 21st because I need board approval before we can submit budget. And so I do expect some of those numbers will change. Something that's changed that hadn't been done in the past is that usually we calculate our cash carryover. This year, they're telling us not to upload that information into OBMS, that they'll calculate it for us. I think, we've got a pretty good number, but it's possible things may change. So if they do, I think we will just have to adjust. But I don't expect the variances to be huge either. I think we should be pretty close. Thank you.